Welcome to the Simpler Business Podcast, where we talk about ways to do what you love and serve your people in a way that brings you income and freedom. I'm your host, Marissa Roberts. Join me as I chat with my favorite entrepreneurs about how they simplify their biz so that you can simplify yours. In the world of online business, many entrepreneurs are constantly on the hunt for the perfect product or service to offer, and high-ticket offers seem to be the recommendation of many coaches. These are high-priced products or services that typically require a significant investment from the customer, typically thousands, and this can create a significant income stream for the business owner. But while they certainly can be lucrative, they can also be trickier to sell. The alternative option is a low-ticket offer, a product or service priced at a lower level, typically ranging from a few dollars to a few $100s. And these can be anything from digital products to coaching sessions or services. It's an easier yes for your customer, but can it provide you the same level of revenue as a high-ticket offer? I am so excited to introduce my guest today, Mickie Kennedy from eReleases. He's going to share his experience with low-ticket offers, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at what he has to say. A little background on Mickie. He founded eReleases 24 years ago to help small businesses, authors, and startups increase their visibility and credibility through affordable press release marketing. Previously, he'd been working at a PR company when a small business owner called saying to Mickie, "We won an award and I want to send out one press release. I've called all the PR firms in the Yellow Pages and they all have a minimum starting price of $20,000. Can you help me?" Mickie saw an opportunity to help and eReleases was born, providing a press release service option that was much more affordable for small businesses. Mickie, welcome. Thank you for being on the show. I'm excited to have you here.
Oh, excited to be here.
It's going to be so interesting to find out your experience with low ticket offers because I tend to find, especially over the last 5 years or so, everything seems to be high ticket, high ticket, high ticket. Know your worth, charge your worth. You need less clients, you'll have less work and you'll get more money. But I feel like when you go high ticket, you're really narrowing down the amount of people that could potentially want to work with you. So to have somebody say, look, you can be successful with lower ticket offers, that is really interesting to me because I feel like that would take a lot of pressure off the sales process for people. It might be a slightly easier conversion. Have you found that in your experience?
I have. For example, we don't have any salespeople. There's no sales force at all. We haven't needed it or never needed it. We tested having a salesperson and our customers just were put off by it. They're just like, we'd rather have more consultative customer service people who are just helping us through the process, not motivated by money or conversions or anything like that.
Yeah. So they just buy directly off the website. It's just nice and simple and smooth that way.
Right. And most of our customers come from just referrals, people telling other people that, hey, I've had good experiences working with eReleases and to give them a try with your next press release.
Oh, that is a really good sign. That's how you know you're providing a really good level of service as well. Yeah. That's a big compliment in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So with your business then, how did you go in terms of growing it? Did everything kind of snowball immediately or did you have any difficulties growing your business with a lower ticket offer?
Yes, because it's easy to outspend the lifetime value of a customer if you get really competitive with some of the click bidding. So it is a little tricky given that I can't compete against a PR firm that might be looking at $20,000 to $50,000 campaigns as far as, signing up a client. They can afford to spend $2,000 to acquire a customer. I can't afford that. So for that reason, the keywords I bid on and other things, strategies that I have are a little bit further down the rungs of how much it costs to bring someone on board.
Did you find it similar in the way that once you locked in a process, you just repeated the process again and again, or did you have to wing it for a while before you figured out what worked?
I winged it for a while, and then I'm I'm not coming from a marketing background. I didn't know. I used a paid advertising on Google when it came out. I'd previously used, I think, Overture or GoTo.com, which was the first pay-per-click search engine. And when Google launched, I I jumped to it, and I just didn't know what I was doing. I would put an ad up, get 7 clicks, and say, I don't know, and then I'd change it. And then finally, I started following some marketing people, and they're like, you really can't do anything until you have statistical relevance, with campaigns. And so I started to approach things more analytically and, looking at the number of conversions and comparing them and realizing that I have statistical significance, that there's an improvement. And I just really took to a duck to water with A/B split testing, making one
Yeah.
little major change on the website and comparing, is this better than the other page? And if so, you have a new winner, and what's another hypothesis that you can put on the page that you want to test out.
I think that would be fun too, because, well, if you're a person that likes puzzles, that would be fun, right? You get to be a bit
Right.
creative and experiment a little bit. Well, tell me a bit more about the tools you use, because I have no experience with anything like that at all. My business is all about, yeah, it was word of mouth, but mine was all based on social media marketing, which is fun, but man, it's a slow journey to do it that way.
Sure. So I still use Google paid advertising. I don't use Facebook paid advertising, mainly because I got cut off during the pandemic,
Oh,
and that was very frustrating. That I think it was because they didn't have staff in office, so there was just like the ability to appeal it and get the account back on. It just never happened. They get locked permanently after 6 months, so I
oh,
just sort of abandoned Facebook. I wasn't making money at it, so it saved me money moving beyond Facebook. But I have an affiliate program where I pay what works out to be about half of the first customer purchase for a new customer that comes on board. I give that to the customer. I lose money on that first transaction, but I'm looking at the longer term value of bringing this person on, and that they'll use this again, more likely down the road.
yeah,
And
affiliate's cool. Yeah.
yeah, and that's pretty much it. I also do a lot of education where I go on podcasts like this and I talk about some of this, ins and outs of press release marketing, some of the things that work, some of the things that don't work. And I just find I do a lot of things. I've been blogging for 15, 17 years. So, I just keep trying all the different things, knowing that they're all, interacting with people. And I'm not sure all the different routes that people, encounter that e-releases brand, but I know a lot of people do, and they do come on board.
I like how you've got more than one strategy, so that if one changes, you don't lose everything in one go. Because I remember blogging. I started blogging back in 2009, and the blogosphere back then, oh man, it just blew up within 2 or 3 years. And then now it's kind of like it's still there. I still blog every week, but it's more for staying up to date and SEO and that sort of thing. I find less people go to my blog now, and more people are on social media or my email list, really. So if I had have only been blogging, I would have been like, what am I going to do now?
Sure. And
Yeah.
you mentioned email marketing. That's also, something that we do. Touching our customer through email still seems to work really well.
And I suppose if it's working well, why change it, right? Why wait? Yeah.
Absolutely. Everybody says, I haven't jumped on texting, but I'm being told that that's a great way to interact with customers. So that's something to consider down the road.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I haven't tried texting yet either, but as a consumer, I've had texts come through from businesses, and some have been bad. They just feel like cold pitches. Like I'm like, I went to you 5 years ago. I haven't heard from you since, and now you're texting me. But others, when they nail that sort of warm and friendly but not pushy sort of in a text, which I think would be hard because you only get a few words to do it in. But if you
Right.
do it well, it does work really well. So it's certainly influenced a few of my purchases.
Right.
So you do Google paid advertising, you've got an affiliate program for e-releases, that's right.
Right.
And then podcasting, yeah, I'm a big fan of podcasting to raise your visibility and awareness, because I think podcasting is a really good way for people to get to know the face behind the business, right? It's not just
Right.
a website anymore. I find podcasting builds that trust with people really easily, because you get to just be yourself, but it's one to many instead of one-on-one conversations. So that's really helpful. And what about managing the workload? Or do you have many other people working for you? How do you go
I
in terms of managing?
It's great. So I have 6 editors and 1 managing editor. There's an assistant, and we also have a project manager, and it's freelancers beyond that for writing and things like that. So it's a decent amount of people, but I am only involved in the marketing from a day to day. I'm not in the office with the editors or anything like that, and that's there's a long story there, but basically in April of 2015 I walked away from the day-to-day operations of the business just to solve my problem of heavy turnover. I was
Mm.
losing I was losing employees on average. They would stay for a year.
Oh,
And I had a friend who was an HR consultant in a marketing mastermind I was in. And I'd complained for 2 or 3 years about how bad my staff was and they're always leaving. And so she said, I'll interview your customers, I'll interview your staff, I'll figure out what's wrong. And she came back and said, it's you. You are a micromanager. A lot
oh,
of entrepreneurs are. You want everything perfect. They never feel like they do anything good enough. And you're just over their shoulder constantly. And they were right. And so I tried to get better for a couple of weeks and I couldn't. So I just said, I'm leaving the office, and we have a much healthier relationship. And almost everybody that was there, minus one person, is still there from 2015. So
that's a good sign.
I was the problem. So I got out of the way.
That's really good that you did that though, because as an entrepreneur myself, I know my ego gets in my way a lot. And I feel like nobody loves my business as much as I love my business, or nobody's as emotionally invested in my business as I am. So I find that hard to let go too. Like, I'll always think I want other contractors, freelancers, I want their work to still feel like me when it goes out there. And yeah, I find that difficult too. So did you find that the quality of work continued once you removed yourself from the office?
Yes, customer service seems to be really well. My customers liked my employees that before. They still like it and have good experiences. And no one's ever going to answer the questions the same way you as the entrepreneur are, and you just have to be okay with that. But they're going to, the things will be answered, and nobody will be told wrong information. They just will be told in a way that me as a marketer is not the preferred way.
Yeah. And I suppose if they have a different way of doing it, they're going to reach a new group of people that connects with their way, right? That if I
Sure.
was doing it all myself, I'd appeal to like maybe one type of audience. But if I've got 4 on my staff working with people, yeah, because they're all going to have different life experiences, different connection points, different things in common with the people they're talking to. So, really, that diversity probably does us a lot of favors, really, in the long run.
I think so. I really do.
I would love to know. Imagine you had somebody come to you and they were just starting their business and they were like, I love what I do, but I don't know how to create a successful business around it yet. Given your experience, because you've got 14 years in the business, is it
20,
14?
24.
24. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, 24 years in. So you have seen a lot in your time and kept up with the changes in technology and what's happening in the world as well. So what would you recommend to a new company or a smaller company that wants to grow? What do you think would be your top points that you would share with them?
I would think really know what your USP is. And by USP, unique selling proposition. What is it that you do that's different than everybody else? Because if you don't have that nailed down, or you don't have one, it's an opportunity to create one, because you're going to need one. I really believe that if you're selling a widget that other people sell, you have to sell it in a way that's a little bit different. Is it the user experience? Is it the education, as well as the product, or is it, something else like, the ease of shipment or something? And once you've nailed that down, you want to own it and sort of try to build a moat around it and protect it in the marketplace. So it is a differentiator that your customers know and that they can appreciate working with you.
So that way you stand out from other people in your field. Do you think it's hard to do that? Because I remember trying to settle on an ideal client avatar when I started my business. And I felt like that's a little bit different. It's more about them than it is about me. But I felt like I was narrowing down too much. So when I think unique selling proposition, I think, what if I pigeonhole myself too much? Is there a risk of that? Or is it more like, no, people are going to know they're at the right person, the narrower I go. What have you found?
I think so. I think for me, like one of my unique selling propositions is to provide as much value as possible to small businesses and entrepreneurs and startups. And so when PR Newswire years ago reached out to me and said, in addition to your email distribution, you should also include us. I pushed back and said, you guys charge $1,500 to move a press release out nationally. My customers could never afford that. And they kept coming back and trying to work with us, and we finally found a way in which we could. But my rate is about a third of that on average, and my customers get a national distribution over the wire, so it's like an unprecedented value. There's nobody else out there that's offering a PR Newswire distribution for under $500, and yet you get that through us. And I think that value, and I've had to fight for it to get it, and to show that as a collective, we really represent a lot of buyers and a lot of buying power. So the Newswire, they bought into it, and now I send them in excess of $1 million a year. So it's worked out really well for them.
It was worth it.
It was. So that shows you the value of a co-op of small businesses at working together, that you can achieve really amazing savings, working, getting service that normally only like a Fortune 5,000 type company could afford.
Yeah. Yeah. Gee, you must have had to really make sure you were nice and confident when you were going back and forth with them. Cause I imagine that would have been I would feel very out of my depth if I started that kind of conversation, because you think, oh, I don't want to lose everything, but I also don't want to not get a great deal out of this. So yeah. Did you find you had to release kind of your emotional attachment to the outcome? Or
yes, I had to be okay with them just walking away, because if it doesn't make financial sense for my customers, there's no way I can build a business around it. And I thought that the value was, rather than offer it as an add-on for, say, $700, that I could make it that if all of my customers receive it, could we get the price down to closer to $150? Yeah. And for them selling a product for $1,500 and willing to take $150, that's a big stretch for them as well. But if you looked at my customer base, they're doing 2 to 3 releases a year. They're spending, under $500 for each. And the Newswire just realizes that, the economies that I'm working with are never going to be able to afford a full price release, and the likelihood of them buying my service for a couple $100 and adding on a $700 or $800 option just is very unlikely. So we made it work. I mean, there was a lot of back and forth, because they just said from a labor standpoint, they didn't feel that they could make that price point work. And I learned a little bit more about them. They invited me to their offices, and then they mentioned that they had an overnight editorial, and they said they're not very busy, but they have to be there in case there's breaking news or a recall, or they have to get news to, say, at the Asian market or something like that. And I'm like, well, what if I scheduled my releases for next business day, and your overnight team could set them up, and it would cost you no additional labor because they're idle for many, many hours overnight. So that was one of the ways that tipped it in the favor of making it work between us. And it's been a really good partnership. We do have companies that come to us that are large companies, and I send them directly to the wire, because they're a better fit. So I've been a good partner from that standpoint. Is like when we get people that are a good fit to working directly with the wire, that we pass them along and make sure they're being handled well.
Yeah, that sounds like the perfect way to collaborate with somebody too. I love that story where it's like you found a solution because you got to know them better, because you didn't brush them off at their first no and just go, well, fine, we're not compatible. Like that whole thing about how can we work together rather than we can't work together. That's such a powerful thing. And I think as entrepreneurs, we tend to not shut down opportunities, but not realize opportunities can work for us if we're just a little bit more flexible, or we ask a few more little questions. What can come out of that?
Right. Absolutely.
And I hope you don't mind me asking, but you've scaled your business to multiple seven figures. And I know for a lot of my listeners who are in their first, say, 1 to 3 years of their business, particularly the ones who might be doing a service that they consider low ticket and think, I'm going to hit a ceiling on how much I can earn based on how much I can work. And I don't want to price too much in case I don't get enough clients. All of those normal sort of fears that come up when you're first starting your business. Did you know at the start of your business that you had the potential to grow it so big to that multiple seven figures, or did it just kind of build up over time and you realized, oh, this could be bigger than I thought? How did you go into it?
It built up slowly over time. I wasn't able to take any money out of the business for like 3 or 4 years. I was fortunate that I had started e-releases with a consumer newsletter business at the same time. And they were both email driven because I started by just emailing journalists, and it was sort of an email platform, so to speak. And I was doing consumer newsletters, and then that was paying the bills. And then the .com crash happened, and all of the consumer newsletter revenue just vanished overnight. Within a 3-month period, it went from 50,000 a month to zero. And e-releases went up a little bit, and I was like, huh. So I just focused a little bit more on e-releases at that time, and just continued to grow it. And eventually it started to provide money. But I can't remember how long it took me, like maybe 10 years to get $1 million. And then probably another 10 years to hit 5 million. And last year we hit 6 million. So yeah, we've been growing mostly, steadily. There's been, a little bit of movement, but we've done very well during times of recessions or uncertainty, because I think at those times, companies like to rally together and issue announcements. Like during the pandemic, it was, here's our pivot, and this is what we're doing. During the .com crash, it was a lot of businesses just trying to differentiate themselves in a crowded marketplace. And during the real estate crash, for whatever reason, a lot of people did press releases. And I think that what is happening is when there's economic uncertainty, people start, they cut off their ad campaigns. And they're like, what else could I do that would be lower cost that I haven't considered in the past? And a lot of people are like, oh, I've always been told to do press releases. They're not very expensive, but it takes a lot of time and energy. And I feel like when they've shut down the ad campaign, they've got the time and the energy to now devote to building out a PR campaign of a series of press releases to issue to the media. And I find that those are some of my best customers who come in during recessions, because they keep feeding it afterwards because they see it working.
So it's like they felt like they had to start it, and then they realized it was actually a really good option. So they don't want to let it go now.
And I think that once you start it, you realize this isn't as difficult as it seems. It's not as daunting as it seems. And I can actually put this into my process so that I'm doing one of these every 2 or 3 months.
So it's much more doable than they originally think it's going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Mickie, it seems like a 20-page essay assignment in college or something like that. We'll go write a press release. But once you do it, you're just like, there's not too much to this. It's not fine writing. You don't have to be a wordsmith to put together a really good press release.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's one of the objections I reckon I would hear from people is like, I'm just not a natural writer. I don't know exactly how to put it into words. I mean, it's like anything. If you've got, say, a guideline to follow and you get to practice at it, you get better at it over the long run, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. You have so many great insights, Mickie. And I'm so glad you're here today, because it's really given me a feeling of there are so many different ways that you can run a business and grow a business. And to hear different examples of people who are like, yep, this is exactly how I started. This is kind of the pathway I followed. And it was actually really nice to know that, this is going to sound like I'm saying it the wrong way. It's nice to know that you did that steady, slow growth and still succeeded, as opposed to all the stories where people go, I made 100K in like 10 days, or I hit $1 million within 2 years. Because I feel like when I hear those, they're cool stories, but I feel like that's out of reach for a lot of us, right? So to hear somebody say, yep, we had a good business model, we learned along the way, it became successful, and we have typical hurdles and handle them as we go. That's really nice. I think that's good for the business owners who are living that experience at the very start right now. So yeah, very inspiring. Thank you.
Right. And one of the things that is really nice about low ticket offers is you can afford to lose your biggest customer. Like my biggest customer represents less than 1% of my revenue. So if I lost two or three of my biggest customers, it wouldn't affect the bottom line at all. Where if you're in a highly consultative high ticket and you lose two or three of your best customers, it can really impact things quickly.
Yeah, all of a sudden you can't pay the bills anymore. Whereas if you're doing low ticket, you lose somebody and you're like, well, I've got to go find another person, but it's not the end of the world. You're not sending people home going, sorry, you can't feed your
Sure.
family.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I know you've got a free video masterclass on how to create a winning PR strategy. So for my listeners who are like, PR, that does sound good. I have no idea where to start. Is it cool with you if we share that with everybody?
Absolutely. It's at ereleases.com/plan, PLAN, and it's completely free. And it goes through the strategies that my most successful customers use again and again to get media pickup. I have one that only does surveys and studies. And, every time they do a press release about a survey or study that they've conducted, they usually get between 8 and 14 articles. And these are, original earned media articles that a journalist has written from the ground up based off the press release and the results that the survey had. And it's really just a fantastic way to get attention and to stand out.
Yeah, that's really impressive because you tend to think, oh, I'll do one thing and then I'll be lucky if I get one article. But actually, no, you can get a lot of traction with that, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, I know people who said that they've done 6-month campaigns with PR firms and got no earned media, or maybe just one local newspaper, and they spent 20,
Thousands.
$30,000, and yeah, and yet I have this formula that basically goes through. I swear, if you do 6 to 8 of these press releases, you will get earned media from it. And I've actually put out there that if you do 6 releases following this and you don't get earned media, let me know, and you can do additional releases until you get earned media completely free. I've never had anyone take me up on it.
Because it's worked so well for them. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
that's a good sign.
Right.
That's fantastic. All right. So I'll make sure we leave a link in the show notes too. So it's nice and easy for people to click on it. And if they want to find out more from you, Mickie, or from your team, where's the best place for them to find you? Should they go to the website, or is social media a better option? Where would you direct?
The website, ereleases.com. We have chat. We have phone where you can call. There's also email, however you prefer interacting with us. And you'll only interact with editors, no salespeople. So there's no commissions or trying to push people into buying or anything like that. We're pretty candid if we feel like a press release could be a good fit for your company. And we walk people through their first press release and PR campaign all the time.
Oh, lovely. Thank you. That makes it nice and easy for people. So it's always nice to have kind of a hand-holding feeling, like you're not doing it all on your own. You've got people who have done it before and are comfortable guiding you through it. So yeah, that'll be really good. Thank you so much for being here today. I've really loved this chat, and I feel like I got so much out of it in just half an hour. So that was
Correct.
amazing. I hope everybody listening today enjoyed the conversation as much as I have, and I will see you all in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simpler Business Podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to make it nice and easy for you, just the way we like it. If you're ready to simplify and scale your business, you can get started with my free audio class at marissaroberts.com. See you next time.